Now, while the world's population approached 1 billion by year 1750 AD, if you look at this graph, you will see that it took less than 200 years thereon to reach 2 billion. And since then, we are taking on an average just around 30 years to add another billion to the population. This growth has been exponential in the recent couple of centuries. This exponential population growth led to exponential requirements for resources, energy, food, housing, and land. And we should emphasize on the fact that there is an exponential increase in the waste products. The impact of this revolution on the world's health and psyche would not begin to register until the early 1960s, some 200 years after its beginning. The devastating effects has been simply put in one paragraph, what you can see on your screen. And what cities? Smoke hung over them, filth impregnated them. Water supply, sanitation, street cleaning, open spaces could not keep up with the pace of the mass of migration of men into the cities. By around 1830, epidemics like cholera, typhoid were killing. They were urban killers. Air pollution and water pollution and respiratory and intestinal diseases had become common. So up to the year 2020, which we are in correctly now, the increase in the amount of greenhouse gases produced since the beginning of the industrialization era has caused the average global temperatures on the earth to rise, causing the melting of glaciers and rising of sea levels. Thus, in various forms, human activity has caused severe environmental degradation. Air and water pollution was caused by the burning of coal and during the production of metals and basic chemicals. This led to increase in domestic waste and industry effluents. Okay, waterborne diseases exceedingly, killed several people in these cities where these industries were located. The impact of pollution generally remained localized, and by today's standard, only a limited range of chemical compounds and materials was used in the industry back then. And often simple methods of dispersing the pollutants more widely by use of high chimneys, for example, seemed quite sufficient to solve the problem. The adverse effects of the environment were usually seen to be short-lived and accepted as if it is an inevitable cost of progress, and to be dealt with only when there was a clear or immediate threat to life and livelihood. This belief probably reached its peak in 1950s and early 1960s and appeared to be amply confirmed by the development of nuclear power, which promised to provide virtually free electricity for all, the ultimate technological triumph. In fact, from the first industrial revolution, which depended on coal, the steam generated due to coal, was followed by the second industrial revolution, where we depended on electricity, and then the third industrial revolution, which depended on computerization, and the fourth one, which depended on intelligence, artificial intelligence, Wi-Fi, and so on. And we're heading to a next revolution, which is related to sustainability. It was the fossil fuel, coal, that initiated the industrial revolution, forever changing the way people would live and utilize energy. While this propelled human progress to extraordinary lives, it came with extraordinary costs to our environment and ultimately to the health of all living things. When the first revolution was coal-based, now we are reaching to a revolution based on sustainability. That's about what human history has been in a nutshell. And here we are in year 2020. Just when the world says there is no way we can shut down everything in order to lower emissions and slow climate change and protect the environment, nature politely decided to tell us, hold on, here I send a coronavirus. A virus which is telling us You are not the only inhabitant of planet Earth. There are over 8.7 million species that live on Earth. Only humans are in panic and not the other species. The virus is asking humans today, what is it that you have done to cause this situation? It's telling us humans, before you point finger at me, kindly introspect. Now is the time of introspection. Now, not to introspect on which team we are. We have two teams here. We have two important persons in the world, presidents of the most important countries, successive presidents, having opposite views. Barack Obama said climate change is not some far off problem, it's happening here and happening now. And we have Donald Trump telling, I'm not a big believer in global warming. So, in this contrast, where do we stand? What is our opinion? What are we reflecting on? What are our thoughts? Is COVID-19 really healing nature? Let us look at the many diseases that emerged over the years. Zika, AIDS, SARS, Ebola. Although they are quite different at first glance, they all originated from animal populations under conditions of severe environmental pressures. In 2018, there were 10 million people affected with TB and 1.5 million died. But TB did not make headlines news, and TB is ranked the 10th in the top 10 global. In what way is this pandemic treating us differently from the fact that, apart from the fact that it is delocalized? Our destructive behavior towards nature is endangering our own health. A stark reality we've been collectively ignoring for decades. Research indicates that most emerging infectious diseases are driven by human activities. We are facing a health crisis of an altogether different scale with COVID-19. Tragic health, social, and economic crisis in living memory. In addition to loss of lives, the virus has disrupted the society and demobilized the global economy. Meanwhile, efforts to contain the virus by restricting the movement have had a remarkable environmental impact. COVID-19, a virus that has been attributed to human interferences such as deforestation, encroachment on animal habitats, and biodiversity loss, has led to a reported thousands of deaths across the country. Navigating this complex relationship between humans and nature is very important now. It reveals the fundamental tenets of the trade-off we consistently face. Humans have unlimited needs, but the planet has limited capacity to satisfy them. Has it come to heal our environment? Or has it come to cleanse our mental ecosystem? The lockdown or no lockdown? Will COVID-19 heal the nature? Let us see. In 2006, Rachel Carson was widely credited with launching the modern environmental movement. In her book, she described the harmful effects of pesticides and other human activity on human environment. She was the one to bring into the public domain concerns about the widespread use of DDT and so on in the USA, the organochlorine compounds, organophosphates as pesticides. It is well documented in connection with the food chains and how it is damaging the wildlife, particularly birds and fish. The possible effects of these chemicals on people and the development of resistance to them by the target insects, including malarial mosquitoes. In addition, she gave a full account of biological control as a practical alternative to the chemical approach. Her views were not immediately embraced by the establishment. Indeed, many vigorously contested them, including scientists and workers in industry and agriculture. But the debate had been opened up and has continued ever since. The safe handling, consumption, and trade of high-risk wildlife species is just one example. We are not at all handling it in a safe form. The pandemic is on, and still the wild animals are captured and brought live to markets to be sold. They need to be well managed and regulated. These markets pose a significant risk to humans, wildlife, and livestock, many of which these wildlife species are endangered. And these are the ones which create the conditions of disease spillover. Tough regulations have immediately been put in place, but are these effective? Looking back at the beginning of Industrial Revolution, we realize that it's difficult to see such a complicated and vast manner in which it has impacted our life. This is the principle of environmental unity. A change in one system will cause change in others. Certainly, the seeds of progress and the ramifications of that progress were planted back then. It is with the same mechanism that has brought us progress and connected the results to the progress in our ecology. And now we are heading into the sustainability era of revolution. But policies, have they been in place? Are they implemented effectively? Is there a visible difference in our ecosystem on account of these implementations? That is a huge question. Climate drivers connected to three factors: exposure pathways, health impacts, and health outcomes. And their interdependency is quite complex. The equation appears simple. Rate of health impact is baseline health status times expected change in exposure times exposure response function. Volumes of data is needed to be collected, and data collection has to be accurate. The parameters are themselves carrying a wide range of values depending on geographical location, culture, etc. For example, take the example of exposure response function for extreme heat. This might be used to quantify the increase in heat-related deaths in a region, which is a change in health impact, for every 1 degree rise in temperature, which is the change in exposure. Okay, though it appears simple, we know from our experience how complicated this can be. In the month of May, which usually records very high peak carbon emissions due to decomposition of leaves, we have now recorded the lowest levels of pollutants since 2008. Of course, this is related to the lockdown. China and northern Italy have also recorded significant reductions in their nitrogen dioxide levels, and many such reports have come in. In India, we have seen that pollution levels have come down across the major cities like Delhi, Bengaluru, Kolkata, Lucknow, and so on. In fact, one of the beautiful examples we have was that on April 3rd, when residents of Jalandhar woke up to see the Dauladhar mountain range, which is not a common phenomenon. Though it lies 213 kilometers away, it was clearly visible from the system. Water bodies like Yamuna and Ganga showed significant improvement since lockdown. In fact, it has also been reported to be suitable for bathing and propagation of wildlife and fisheries. So in conclusion, the takeaway from this is that once nations come to grips with the coronavirus, better implementation of environmental, transport, and industry regulations should be considered a priority to ease the detrimental impacts of human activity on the environment. The international community also has to take into consideration these enlightening results of this pandemic. The environment, for once, has bounced back faster than we could have ever thought of. And it would be downright irresponsible to let that knowledge take a backseat once social distancing and nationwide lockdowns are no longer required. The COVID-19 lockdown has led to cleaner air, but will do little to address the issue of air pollution in the long run. People living in poor air quality may be more susceptible to disease and airborne particulate matter, and this may help spread the virus. But the world leaders now have a chance to plot a different and cleaner future. Okay, so the biggest challenge now for us would be that we phase out the use of burning coal, oil, and gas. This is our challenge. I will run through these slides because I have summarized the meaning of pollution and what the impact of lockdown is and how pollution is taking an independent path, pandemic or not. There are several links here. If required after the program, I will forward the links to you. Take a look at what is being shown here. Look at these pictures. This is Noida, before and after. Dolphins in the Ganges after 30 years. This is Navi Mumbai, where you see flamingos because humans are not bothering them. Water systems are becoming cleaner. Delhi visibility has increased. The bitter truth is, the moment we stopped flights and trains and industries, the atmosphere has cleared up. We can see the Himalayas when we could not see earlier. We can see various mountain ranges, including Himalayas. The frothing of the rivers have stopped. Our co-inhabitants are visiting us at our beaches. Birds are coming into the heart of the cities. There are so many such pictures. But are these pictures inspiring you? Do they excite you? That is what we have to reflect on. If these pictures are exciting you, then there is something you can do about it. Expend that energy in the right direction. You can operate from your position as a student, as a bureaucrat, as a government official, as a teacher, or an activist. The easiest one is to be an activist because the only qualification or eligibility requirement is passion. Activism, you don't need to be aggressive, you don't need to be harsh, you can be silent workers. Just do your work and get on with life. We don't have to wait for policy change and policy implementation. Because as you're already seeing right now, it seems that we are living in an entirely different world. A world where the air is healthier, water is cleaner, and animals and birds are reclaiming their spaces. The virus is questioning us what your generation has done in the last 50 years in bringing the planet to the edge. Today, the population is almost 8 billion. Planet Earth cannot sustain this explosive growth. This explosive growth threatens all other forms of life. Nature is devastated. Every decade, some 500 species of animals are becoming extinct. And while everybody is aware, nobody takes action. When a little girl cried in front of world leaders, most of them ridiculed her. At this point, let us pause and take a look at the after scenario during the Industrial Revolution. Please read the points that are under after. Are you able to make a connection to it? This scenario, is it prevailing today? Yes, of course. The column under after, though I am reading from the point of view of Industrial Revolution, today in 2020, the same points are staring right into our face. Industrial Revolution, we spoke about, the 1700s and 1800s, Today we are 2020, and most of these factors are still staring at us. We cannot escape from the reality. What was seen during the 1700s and 1800s, we see even now. There are several places in the city where there are problems with sanitation, no development plans, garbage piled up, whole families living in one-bedroom shelters, sicknesses in the slum areas. It seems for a while that we are going back to the 1700s and the 1800s, which came to the forefront because we were trying to address the COVID issue. We had many epidemics and pandemics. People have lost their life. And every time we hope to do our best for our ecosystem when the pandemic is gone. But when we are out of it, we are back to square one. This pattern has repeated every time there's been an epidemic or a pandemic. So why are we expecting anything to be different now? Are we doing anything in the direction of reducing the use of coal and some such initiatives? These are the questions that must haunt us, trouble us, and bother us till we decide to take action and put a plan of action in place. It is these troubling thoughts that made me accept this offer made by Dr. Eradicate Sophia for this webinar. I am a chemistry professor, but the first thought that came to my mind is that here's the opportunity I was looking for. Here's the platform to speak my mind, and here's the audience that needs to be pushed, prodded, provoked to take matter in their hands. Because you, dear students, are the future. Here, I'm taking a leaf out of Greta Thunberg's book. This is my moment of calling, my duty to reach out to you, and this is my moment to speak. I haven't done enough for the environment, and I hope this is a beginning of a journey for me where I can play my part in this mammoth exercise to revive our Mother Earth. Let us not make this beautiful green earth hostile for our children and grandchildren. Let it be a beautiful gift for them. Now ask yourself, has your moment arrived? Going back to this picture, now there are two perspectives to these pictures. We are not here to see which side we need to be in. Let others do the talking, and we shall act. Are you in a dilemma which side you are in? Padma Shri Salu Marada Timmakka only had kindness in mind when she planted saplings along a distance of 5 kilometers near the neighboring village of Kudur. If you have to choose between being kind and being right, choose being kind, and you will always be right. What are the things that you can do? Our major concern, of course, is coal and oil wells. We need to find alternatives like electrical vehicles. In fact, in UK, they're switching to biodegradable fuels. They've set a target as 2035. But from our place, is there something that we can do? Do we need a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler to go to college as students? Or as employees, can we work from home? The only place where we need most contact time is schools and colleges. And of course, hospitals where, patients have to interact most of the time with the patients. In all other professions, we can reduce office space and increase work from home. Sometimes we may not get enough support from the government. For example, in Brazil, they have implemented hybrid engines and, encouraging the use of ethanol. But cost-wise, it is not helping the citizens in any way. There's no subsidy from the government, and so on. The main advantage of using ethanol, though, in these hybrid engines is that it is recycling the carbon that is already present on and above the surface of the earth. Whereas when we use coal, we are introducing new carbon atoms in various forms into the atmosphere, thereby increasing the possibility of carbon dioxide formation. And when we add benzene and methanol to it, we're adding more avenues for air pollution. During lockdown, the carbon footprint reduced a lot. There was reversal of ozone layer depletion. Another possibility is to Encourage sustainable agriculture. How many of you have thought of cycling to school, college, or work? How about a 4-day week? So the 3 days, there's not much of vehicles on the roads. How about hydroponics uh, for our farming needs? The question to you is, can few students come together through a college association as part of social outreach with permission from your principal and management and able guidance and support from your teachers, make a plan of action, maybe to plant a certain number of saplings? This is a very simple suggestion that I'm giving. If Salu Marada Timaka can plant so many trees, why not us? We have disturbing pictures of masks coming out of the oceans. Can we do something about disposal of used masks, which is toxic waste? We don't have to do much. We can do from the comforts of our homes. Maybe an online campaign to sensitize children because they are the ones who are very passionate about this cause. They work on it wholeheartedly. So when they are at home, can we engage them in activities that make them more responsible about toxic waste disposal and generate the awareness of reduce, recycle, reuse? You can do a whole lot of these things from the comforts of our home. So if we need to see the change, we should be the change. Now the field is open for you for questions.
Hello.
What we need to see here is that people are generally discussing that there is a positive side to COVID. The lockdown has cleared up our environment. But will we be backing this even after the lockdown is lifted? That is our primary concern. If we go back a few slides, these two are the slides which should hit us hard. What happened during Industrial Revolution? Many people, they started making their living from the factories. Industrial cities and towns grew up. Factory workers worked long hours governed by the factory whistle. Children were working in mines and factories. City dwellers were buying food and clothing in stores. Factory-made products were available. Coal and steam was taking the place of wind and wood and so on as power sources. Inventions like telegraphs, anesthetics, and sewing machine came into the scene. Faster transportation was possible by train. Now, though this happened in 1700s, this is what we have to focus on. In most of the countries in our world, this is the exact situation now in 2020. So what is our perspective about environment with relation to COVID? In the dealing with COVID in our country itself, in major cities like Bombay and Delhi, we have seen that in Bombay, a slum was infected first, the Dharavi slum. Fortunately for us, that maybe with the help of social workers, it stopped from becoming a super spreader. Otherwise, we would have had thousands of people dying from that slum region because of the extremely high population density prevailing in those slums. Keeping this in mind, we need to be very, very clear that we cannot take things for granted. We need to be extremely proactive here. Students have to think now. Now you all are sitting at home. You need to think what you can do about this. You have a little bit of time now to sit at home and reflect upon these things. This is the charge, the activity I'm giving it to you all. If Greta Thunberg and our own Lysipriya, if they as small children can come out and make such a difference worldwide, Can we, as individuals, come together under the guidance of your teachers and do something about it? That is my main purpose of this talk. If there are any questions, any suggestions, please share in the chat box and the moderator will read out the questions.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, continue, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello. Dear participants, if you have any question, kindly ask the resource person. Dear participants, feedback link is available in the chat box. Kindly make use of it. If you have any doubts, clarification, kindly raise the questions through the chat box. Joyce, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to resume my presentation. Just give me a moment.
Okay. So one question is in the chat box.
Yes, sir.
Any other suggestion for the environment? How can you enhance the environment in nowadays? That means the COVID-19 pandemic period. What's your suggestion?
Yes, sir. Um, can you see my screen?
Yeah, definitely.
Slides? Right. I would like to cite the example of Greta Thunberg. What do we know about her? Now, this girl, when she was around, 8 or 9 years old, she was introduced to the concept of pollution and climate change. What did she do once she listened to this talk? She actually went into a kind of a silence mode and almost went into depression. This is the kind of impact that was there on her when she heard that climate change is irreversible. And if we do not do anything now, we may not have anything left behind. There is no planet B for us here. This is the only planet we have. Okay, that child, with her limited knowledge, but a highly imaginative mind, decided to do something about it. In one of her TEDx talks, she said that she was Asperger's syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, and selective mutism. What is selective mutism? Selective mutism basically means that she only speaks when she thinks it's necessary. And when she stood there in front of those audiences, She said, "Now is one of those moments. Now is the moment that I want to speak." Meanwhile, side by side in India, we had Lysipriya. She is also a young girl. She raised awareness in her own way, in the lines of Greta Thunberg, but she had not received as much publicity as Greta had received. But she's doing a great job. She's called as our own Greta Thunberg. Can we do something like this? We are much older than them. We are much more conscious than them. We are much more aware than them. And what we have seen is Mother Earth has given us a sample already. What you study in your college, you study your theory, and then you go to your practical class to back up what you've studied in your theory. Now, Mother Earth has already given us a situation where we know that our environment can be revived.
Hello.
We all know that our planet can be revived. Ice is melting, sea levels are rising, many islands will vanish in a few years. Flooding will start, and most of our coastal regions, even in India, the Maharashtrian coastal region and down south, most of these the coastal regions will be submerged. And this is already happening, and we are turning a blind eye to it. Now, these are the gaps where you can fill in. That is important because you are the world citizens. You are global citizens now. Online, we are all global. We are all online now, so that is nothing that separates you from the rest of the world. There are no boundaries between countries. Can you students come together and form a forum and start putting the plans into paper and what you can do to revive it? Are you inspired by those before and after pictures that I show? If those pictures have not inspired you, then there is a problem. But if those pictures have inspired you, we have beautifully seen what can happen if we shut down our cities, if we shut down the industrial areas. Like magic, you see how you start seeing the beautiful trees, the mountains, the plants. They look so beautiful. The birds, the peacocks coming into the city, the deers walking on the highways, lions, tigers. Now, if this is not touching you, then there is a big problem. But I know it has touched you all, it has inspired you all, and you all are excited. Channelize that energy. Like I told you, there are several ways. Simple thing would be start planting trees. Practice rainwater harvesting. Extend the plan of rainwater harvesting that we use in the cities to the farming areas. Very often, the farmers suffer because there is no rain. Can we not have a rainwater farming type of a method in the villages where the farmers require? It is definitely possible. All we need is the ideas and somebody to implement the ideas. Funds can be easily generated. You show one farmer benefited by your idea. Just go on an outreach program from your college. I have been a part of outreach program in my college. They have planted saplings, but you have to see what is important or what is required in your locality. Find the nearest region close to your college and see what they need. Our main sustainability comes from agriculture. When all industries closed during lockdown, the agriculture scenario cannot go into lockdown. We need our food. The food stock that we have may only last till March 2021. What will happen after that? So we cannot have our farmers stop working. But they are human beings. They are also under lockdown. What is it that we can do? We have like a few hours every day if we can spend with like-minded students, with the help of your principal, management, your staff. Put a plan into action. Where there is a will, there is a way. If one farmer benefits, they will come to you telling, please help the remaining 50 farmers in our locality. Can you cycle to work? Can you cycle to schools? Can you cycle to college? Do we have to use a four-wheeler? We are using four-wheeler because of pollution. But if pollution comes down, then you do not need a four-wheeler. There are plenty of ways you can do. If you are there any areas where you are inspired to do work, but you find that there are some challenges there? We have become a very consumeristic society. We consume a lot of things. In the good old days, you just needed to have, a few dresses, 2 or 3 pairs, and, one special dress for special occasion, and so on. But now, every month we need to go, we go out for purchasing, and so on. Did we not manage without purchasing for these 3 months? Extend that for the rest of your lives. You will see how the consumeristic society or the consumeristic behavior will change. The moment you change that, our resources will be used for more meaningful and more useful requirements such as medicine, technology, and so on and so forth. Another suggestion I would give is to use locally available produce. The vegetables and fruits that come from the nearest agricultural fields, if you can start consuming those, you are doing your bit to cut down on pollution. You are helping the farmers too.
Yes, Anna?
Any more questions?
Hello. Guys, will you able to see from the chat box? Are you able to see the chat box?
Let me see, ma'am.
Right side. It is in the right side.
Yeah, I can see. I'll just look.
So whether it is possible to maintain this clean environment after the COVID period? This was one question asked by a participant.
Absolutely. Like I told you, where there is a will, there is a way. This environment can remain as such. Let us take the example of the city where we are. The problem is the number of vehicles on the roads. We need to draw out a plan of action. Our first and foremost thing is to cut down the vehicles on the road, because there we use oil and gas. The source of pollution, carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases, as well as the particulate matter because of incomplete combustion of these fuels. These are the ones which are the major source of pollution. Now, in a country like India, there is another major source of pollution and a bigger source of pollution because our country is full of villages. It's full of villages. And what do they do in these villages? They still use wood, they still use coal and so on for cooking purposes. Our country has gone a long way in introducing LPG cylinders into the homes of our villages. We have done great in this matter, but we still have a long way to go. So if I look at the villages, this is what I have to do. In the villages, the cause of pollution is using wood and coal. Avoid that. Do not cut down the trees. Plant more saplings and get more trees in the villages. You will still have a beautiful village. Then in the cities, we need to cut down traffic. One method I told you, to cut down on the use of vehicles. Second method is, as of now, we have 6 days week. Many of us work on Saturdays. Can we make it for a start as 5-day week? Then some of the companies, like software companies, they have 5-day weeks. Can they make it into 4-day weeks? It is definitely possible. Thirdly, right now there is a suggestion that in these companies, when the lockdown is over or when we are in the process of easing down the lockdown, only 30% of the employees need to come. So you see what happens if 30% of the employees come to the office. The remaining 70% are at home. Their vehicles are not on road. And going by this calculation, on an average, you have to go 2 days in a week to the office. I'm talking about companies. So if you're going 2 days to office, the remaining 5 days you're at home. In those 5 days, of course, 3 days you will be doing your office work. Weekend is for your weekend. So out of these 5 days, 2 days you're traveling to office. The remaining 3 days you are not using your transport facilities. That will definitely help us to continue with this present scenario of the environment. Definitely possible, but we need the policymakers, the bureaucrats, the activists, students, parents, teachers, doctors, everyone must come together and very seriously pursue this. If we do not follow it up in this manner, we will be disrespecting Mother Earth. Mother Earth has shown us experimentally that it is possible to clean up our environment. Okay, therefore I made that statement. COVID-19, whether it cleans up the environment or not, we do not know, because the question before that is, can COVID-19 clean up our mental ecosystem? Only then can collectively we all come together, and it can happen. This is where I tell you we need activism. What is the activism I'm talking about? For that, I showed you this one. Salu Marada Thimakka, she did not know she was an activist. Even today, if you ask her, she may not believe if we tell her that she is an activist. She only knew that she had to be kind. She only knew that she had to be kind. Kind to the people in her village, kind to the people in her neighboring village, kind to Mother Earth. And she and her husband started planting saplings. Kilometers. They were traveling 2-3 kilometers. They were carrying 3-4 buckets of water, so many kilometers, and watering those saplings. Is it difficult for us? All I need is a cycle to carry 4 pots of water. Can we not do it? We can do it. So the question is, whenever you get an idea about implementing, you will have a doubt. What I'm doing, is it right or is it wrong? I ask you the question, I request you, and we who are helping you, the future, open your eyes and see, reframe that question. Reframe that question as, am I kind or am I unkind? You will know your answer. I hope I've answered the question. Let me see if there are any more questions. Our environment is polluted for our uses of polythene and chemicals. How can we eradicate them? I was hoping that somebody will ask me this question. Unfortunately, now, during COVID, the use of plastic for the reasons of PPE, personal protective environment equipment, and for the purpose of mask, the use of plastic has increased, because that is the preliminary solution or protection we have. Though most of us have started using cloth masks now, there are some disposable masks which have polymer content in them. So here is another gap that you can fill. One is, again, awareness. Simple awareness is about the masks, the disposable masks. Look at the people around you, look at the children around you, ask them to dispose them separately. How many of us are disposing these masks in our regular garbage plastic bin? What is happening to the workers who are sorting out this garbage? They have to handle these masks. Plastic is there, it is a necessary evil. Right now, we cannot have a plastic-free PPE. We cannot have a plastic-free personal protection equipment. Head to toe, our doctors and nurses are covered with plastic to protect themselves. Okay, here we have to open up a little. We cannot say stop using plastic, but we can say term this plastic as toxic waste and collect them separately. That is the most important point. This is pertaining to the prevailing situation, but over a period of time, once we are out of the COVID situation, there are ways of reducing the use of plastics. I will give you one simple example. In our college canteen, we use steel cups for tea, coffee. We do not use plastic cups. We have minimized the use of paper cups. Of course, now because of COVID, we are using paper cups. So like I told you, sometimes we have to be kind to ourselves. It is okay to use plastic. We cannot do away with it. So what I would say is, if you are using plastic during COVID times, please collect them separately and dispose them off separately. Let it go to a recycling unit. Okay, reduce, recycle, reuse. Do not throw them into the common garbage bin. Separate the organic wastes. Depending on where you are, you can even use your organic waste for composting. All right. So I hope I've answered my question. There is no way we can live without polythenes and chemicals. They are lifesavers. They are necessary evil. The only solution is in segregating the waste. Once you segregate the waste, there are, of course, this is another place where, activism can come into picture. Use that segregated waste. There are so many articles I have actually Googled out where these plastics have been used by NGOs and student groups, where they've used it to lay roads in some villages, and they're doing very well. There are, if your mind is open, you will see plenty of opportunities. And this is a wake-up call, particularly to students. I know I'm addressing students of UG level and maybe PG level. You are the pioneers in this area. You are at home now. Use this time to think. Use this time to inspire and encourage your friends, your like-minded people, and you will see miracles happening.
Madam?
Yes, ma'am.
I think almost we are running out of time. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am.
So participants, if you are interested, you can chat you can put your queries in the chat box. So she will answer you. We'll give her mail ID to you. Thank you, Dr. Joyce, for your contextual presentation with great insight. I hope all the participants might have enjoyed the session. And I request all the participants to stay home, stay safe, and win the battle between the invisible virus and we. Have a good day. May I request our Professor, Dr. Darwin Paul Edison, the webinar coordinator, to record the vote of thanks.
It's my great privilege to propose the vote of thanks. So first of all, I thank God Almighty to give us good health for us to in the pandemic situation. Second, I thank our principal, Dr. John Kennedy Vedanathan, who have uh, motivated us to encourage to conduct this kind of webinar. Then I thank our resource person, Dr. Joyce D'Souza, Associate Professor of Chemistry, St. Joseph College, Bangalore. He has clearly explained the concept of environment and other related topics. He also uh, clarified all the doubts regarding in the environment and the COVID-19. So thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
sir.
really thank all the participants. Nearly 200 participants were participated in the Google Meet platform, and also
Thank you so much for the participants who have participated in this webinar. Nearly 400 members were participated in this program. I thank you one and all for the patient attention. So the feedback link is available in the chat box. Kindly make use of it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
dear participants, kindly make use of this feedback link, which is available in the chat box.
Hello, sir. Feedback.
Yes, which is available in the chat box, sir.
So chat boxல இல்ல சார் போடுறீங்களா?
So now
Okay, thanks.
the
Thanks,
link
thanks,
is available.
thanks, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay.